Welcome to the IBEX Method Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Foutz. Today, Steve Beta is not with us. He's on paternity leave, taking care of his newborn baby. Today, we have special guest, Mikhail Kniaziewicz, and me and him met during a physique competition. We were both debuted, so it's the first time ever being on stage together. He's taken it a lot further. It's his second year competing. I did not compete this year, but we'll be talking about a lot of different things. I know the big topic of today is discussing the importance of the why. So I think from here, we'll just kind of take the floor. Mikhail, what's been going on with you?
Not much, man. So just finished my second ever bodybuilding show, as you said, second year going in. Almost a month exactly ago, down in Baltimore again. Right now, just really been focusing on having a full, off season. Actually trying to put on some size for the first time, really, in my bodybuilding and fitness career. I've always been trying to lose so much weight, which at the time I was like, when I started, I was like 210 pounds. Now I'm at like 140, 145. So it's very interesting trying to basically intentionally gain weight again, the right way. So that's really what I'm focusing on right now. So it's been a good start so far in my off season.
That's awesome, man. So right now, I mean, you've been doing physique competitions. Are you looking to go more classic physique, or trying to go bigger, or what do you think?
I'll tell you this. In my personal opinion, I think classic physique is like the perfect division. I in terms of what I love about bodybuilding, the aesthetics, the perfect symmetry, the physique, as well as the artistry of trying to put that together on stage. I think nothing beats it. Would I love to compete there? Absolutely. But, there's a lot of steps that I got to do. My biggest thing, obviously, is to try to get my pro card in men's physique and just dominate in that division as much as I can until I think I'm comfortable enough to move on or even go in some other direction with that. So, for sure.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, so how'd you get into physique competition?
It's actually funny because I actually never wanted to do bodybuilding. Because I used to work at a local small gym back in like sophomore year of college back home. And I remember I used to look through all the magazines and stuff. And I'm like, I can never be on stage, posing and stuff like that, and weird tan and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's absolutely no way. And at that time, like my biggest goal, because, I was playing Division III college football. I wanted to play professional football. That was like my biggest goal since freshman year of high school. So for me, like that's really what my main objective was almost in life. I just wanted to be a professional football player and just focus on that. I went through a lot of, tough times and stuff like that. Battle a lot of depression, mental health stuff. And my biggest medicine for that, really, antidepressant, was working out. So I was already working out because of football, but for me, I was taking it outside of football. I was doing like 2 workouts a day after that point, and like kind of doing my own exercises. And not only was it like an antidepressant for me, but I started to really enjoy it. I loved working out, and then I started getting really into the fitness industry. I ended up getting my PT certification, and then it was the summer of my right going into my senior year of college. I remember it like as if it was yesterday. I was, it was like a 98-degree day. I was practicing by myself, getting ready for the football season at home, and I don't know what it was, but it just hit me one day, and I knew right then and there, I'm like, this is my last year playing football. And it was a little upsetting, for like a couple minutes. But I think it was at that point too, because I loved fitness and working out so much, that I really all along, my goal wasn't to play professional football, but it was just to be a professional athlete. and to be at my very best and to prove to everybody that I am one of the absolute best to step on the stage, football field, anything. So, you know, I was introduced 2016. You know, I started watching bodybuilding. I got into it. You know, I used to watch Pumping Iron. I immediately fell in love with that movie.
That's awesome.
You know, it's for some, you know, if you're trying to get into bodybuilding, go watch it. Like, it's a classic. You'll love it. I fell in love with it. And then I found out, you know, the men's physique division, that really attracted me, you know, watching that, because 2016 Olympia was the first Olympia I watched. Seeing, you know, guys like Jeremy Buendia, Ryan Terry, you know, up there. And I'm like, okay, so they have a division, you know, that really supports and promotes, you know, more of the athletic look. And I'm like,
yeah,
you know what? I think I can do this. Because to me, what turned me off, you know, other than like the tanning and stuff at that time, from bodybuilding, was just, I'm like, man, you gotta be like a mass monster. Like, you have to like be like eating like 5,000 calories. Like, that's like part of the training and all that. And I'm just like, there's no way I can do that at 5'7". So seeing men's physique, I was just like, I think I can do this. So, you know, my love for fitness, I just fell right into it. And I just said, you know what? I think my goal, instead of being a professional football player, is to take over bodybuilding. And for me personally, you know, as I love football and I have so much respect for the sport and the game, it gave me so much. But individually speaking, you know, I've won a lot of like championships on teams, and I know how good of an athlete I am. But I always felt like I was always, you know, in a way held back from team sports, because there's a lot of things I can't control.
yeah,
I can, you know, especially as a kicker, I can only control how many, like the 1 or 3 points I put up every game, how far I kick it off. I can't control if we win a football game. I can't control that. So, you know, for me, it was like I needed to prove to myself that I am as good of an athlete as I think I am, and that I know I am. So I wanted to dive into an individual sport like bodybuilding, and I just wanted to prove it really to myself. So that's really how I got into it.
that's awesome, man. So 2016 really took off, and then you decided in 20, what year was that? Last year, I guess. So what made you decide to take that first step to get on stage, and why 2019, I guess?
You know what's funny is that so I actually so I was actually prepping for my first show in 2017. I actually had a coach at the time. We were actually getting ready, and I was about, I want to say, like 8 weeks out. This was for OCB Battle for the Belt in Burlington. No, I'm sorry. No, it was actually the New Jersey Classic in May in 2017. And I was 8 weeks out. And I don't know why it never dawned on me, but I had graduation literally that Saturday that the show was on.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, wow, that sucks. And I was like so pumped for that. So I ended up having to like tell my coach, like, yeah, I can't do this. You know, sorry, whatever. In a weird way, I was actually relieved, because, you know, I really, you know, I was in shape, but I wasn't really seeing progress. And so for me, what I ended up doing was actually using that as a dry run, and coaching myself pretty much for the last 8 weeks to see how, you know, shredded and fit I can get, to basically pretend I was competing on that show. So I used that as a warm up.
Nice.
And then what I ended up doing was taking the whole next year off to keep trying to develop, you know, my overall physique. And then I told myself, you know, because OCB Chesapeake Classic was really the only one that had a debut category at the time. So 2019, I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and let's mark that on the calendar and let's just get ready for it. So I ended up, you know, last year was my first time trying to compete for it. So
yeah, it's awesome. So for people who don't know, you want to kind of dive into what debut is. That's what attracted me to the OCB Classic as well, was the debut feature. Yeah.
So the debut category really is just for anybody who's never competed before. And that really attracted me because I'm like, all right, at least I can go into the show and know that the guys I'm going to be on stage with have never done it either. So it's really going to come down to who really, like, you know, put their best work in and stuff like that. And you're not going to be going up against the guys, you know, that have like X amount of extra years of experience against you. So debut is definitely something that, you know, I recommend anybody if they can find something that's like relatively close to you, you know, to definitely go ahead and sign up for it.
Yeah, so that's cool. That's how we met. We met at the debut, and it's kind of funny. So I had my journey. I think you may have know most of it, but Crohn's disease, all the stuff, and then finally 5 years later, I'm like, okay, I can work out again without disrupting my health. And one of my friends is a physical trainer coach. I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, put me on a program. Let's see what food I can eat with my condition. See what we can do. So that got me to OCB, and it's kind of funny because I just wanted to kind of show what I can accomplish, the kind of overcoming Crohn's disease. But the competitive side, I was like, well, you know, I don't want to just like show my, you know, like I don't want to not show out, you know, on game day or whatever. So I signed up for debut, but then I was like, I know I'm going to regret not trying a second time. So I signed up for like the novice, you know, and that I ended up not placing in debut, and I ended up getting, I think, fifth place in novice.
I remember that.
And I told you, man, I was like, you should have done it. Like you could have, like, you had
the nail on the head, dude. You said you would have regretted. I'm gonna be honest, dude. That was like my biggest regret, is not doing all that other stuff, doing the novice and open. I was like, damn, cause you know, looking at the field, like, you know, it was competitive, but I'm like, damn, what a missed opportunity. I really, so upsetting. But yeah, man, that's insane. That was a really good job, man. Honest to God, really, really good job on your part. That was insane. That, honest to God, and that's what I said. You know, looking back at that show, dude, debut was stacked.
Yeah, no,
debut that was stacked because you said, dude, you didn't place in debut, but you got fifth in what you said, novice, right? Yes. Yeah, man. Our class was really stacked, and we were like 7 deep. So, in my opinion, like that was the best class at that show. You know, it was the debut, which is, you know, kudos to all of us for never doing it before and to be that tight. So hell of a job, honestly.
Yeah, I'm getting chills, man. I remember just standing in line next to you, waiting to go on stage and just talking with you, and just I really loved your drive, your passion. I could see you just even with like you put your heart and soul into what you were doing, and I'm like, man, like did I not give enough? You know what I mean? Like
that's what I love about it, man, is that like we all gotta push ourselves, you know, and we gotta push each other. Like the prep, and you know it, man, prep is hell. It is so tough. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, when you're up there, you can't look back and say, oh, I should have done it. Like you just gotta own it. Like own what you did and everything, man. So just gotta be confident.
Yeah. No, and again, that's one thing that just kind of attracted me to your personality. I mean, you're humble, but then you're like driven, you know, like you know what you want.
Hungry and humble, man. That's really the name of the game for me.
Yeah, and I don't know, just surprisingly, I didn't see anyone that was like chauvinistic. I didn't see anybody that was kind of over the top. Everyone was just kind of like, hey, we're all here, we're embracing the suck together.
Yeah, you know. I love the OCB, man. It's such a like almost a family environment. Like, you know, I expect to see the chauvinistic type of people there. I'll even admit that, you know, at least mentally to myself, like I'm there with that. But, you know, at the end of the day, the judges hold the key to everything. So for us, you know, there's nothing we can do. This isn't like a cage fight where we can literally physically, you know, outdo the other person. Like whatever the judges are looking for that day, like we can't control that. So that's what I love about it.
No, that's a good point. And that's what I realized too. Just you put your best foot forward, the judges would dictate, you know, what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. So you did 2019 was debut in Baltimore, and then this year was round 2. Did you do any other competitions leading up to Baltimore this year in 2020? Or
try to?
Okay.
So let me see here. I was getting ready. February. So like mid-February, I was getting ready for New Jersey Classic in May in Burlington. And then pandemic happened, COVID-19. So they just shut down like pretty much every show at the time. They literally shut everything down until I think November, back in February. And I was like, okay, that's done. I didn't even like, it wasn't even, I didn't start prep for that yet. So, and I saw a lot of people who had like shows in like late February who like, they literally got canceled peak week. And I was like, man, I hope that doesn't happen to me.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
Things started opening, quote unquote, opening up a little bit in, early summer. And I was getting ready for OCB Battle for the Belt in Burlington in August. I was like, oh, let's just hope that New Jersey opens up, all the states kind of open up a little bit so that we can at least try to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I was 8 weeks out and they ended up canceling that show. So I was like, those were the only shows I'd ever do. Cause like, as much as I love the Chesapeake Classic, like driving 2 hours to Baltimore and like doing that, I'm like, why would I want to do that when I can just like Burlington for me is like 5 minutes away.
Okay.
It's
wow.
literally like down. Yeah. So it's not far. I can literally stay at my house, after I get the tan and be at least, comfortable. I don't have to be out somewhere else. So I didn't even plan to compete at Chesapeake this year, period. Honestly, last year was supposed to be my one and only time doing it. So when the Battle for the Belt got canceled, I was stuck between two options. So option one was, okay, I could take the whole rest of this year off,
Mm-hmm.
put size on because that's something I know I had to do. Or I could go ahead and at least compete. Going back to what I said earlier about regretting not doing novice and open, I could go ahead and compete this year, do novice and open for Chesapeake Classic. So I was like, you know what? I love competing. I honest to God, and it's crazy because, I could be off of emotion now, but I love competing more than any other sport I've ever done. Like there's just something about stepping on stage in front of hundreds of people, being judged, about basically all the hard work you put in. So I was like, you know what, screw it. We're doing it. So I ended up prepping for the show this year and yeah, we ended up doing it. So
nice. And how'd you fare? How'd you fare out this year? I mean, I know we had backstage discussions. I ended up playing coach this year basically because a similar thing, right? Like I was like, oh, I want to compete. I prepped for it, but then I'm like, my son's had like multiple surgeries this year and stuff. So I'm like, I don't even know when his next one's going to be. But I did have the opportunity to coach. But I know it's kind of like backstage. You were kind of discussing the similar thing where I was like, yeah, I didn't know what I was going to do, but this opened up, so I went for it. So how did you end up doing that day?
Man, it's crazy because mindset is such a critical thing, and I learned that this year. So last year, like battling pancreatitis and stuff 10 weeks out, going through that prep, not doing any ab workouts or cardio, it was so tough. And for me, mentally, I was just like, it's my first show. I went through all this extra stuff that not a lot of people would want to go through or normally go through in a prep. I was like, I just want to compete. Whatever happens, happens. So for me, getting fourth place in debut was like, a holy crap moment. I was like, I'll definitely never forget. It's probably one of the most proudest fourth places I'll ever get in my life. But this year, it's crazy going back to the mindset, because this year I knew like, all right, I was healthy this time. I have a full prep. I can do pretty much anything, eat anything for the most part, in terms of my diet. And I just set such a high standard for myself because I knew how well I did with a handicap last year. So I put so much pride in my workouts this year. I had high expectations, and that's my biggest advice, to anybody who's listening to this, who's, a competitor, who's trying to maybe compete, just stay in your lane, don't don't put those expectations in yourself. Like, obviously everybody wants to win, and you should always feel and have the right to believe that you can win, but don't put all your eggs in a basket, which is something that I did. So immediately, getting third place in novice this year and, you know, fourth in the open, I was like disappointed in myself, actually. You know, off like the first couple of days after, even after the show, I was like disappointed. Just because I knew that I could have done more in prep, you know, and you always think you can do more in prep, but I just wasn't happy with the results and stuff like that. So, but, you know, looking after, you know, I gave it like a week or two after to like really just think about it. And, you know, seeing the stage photos, for me, I was like, you know what? That stage was insane. You know, the show this year was just extremely competitive, which another reason I thought about like competing this year, because it was crazy. I didn't know who was going to show up this year because of COVID. Yeah. So it either could have been nobody showed up, because there was actually a show in you know, up in Massachusetts, and this guy was the only men's physique guy.
Wow.
And I was like, that's insane. And, you know, I kept asking the promoters. I was like, so when are we getting this list of all like the people competing? And they said, oh, soon, you know, Bobby, he never sent one out. So I was like, I didn't know who the hell was competing. And dude, honestly, this show was stacked. And in my opinion, all the guys who beat me this year, like, I think if they competed, if it was like a normal, you know, non-pandemic year and they all competed in some other, I think every one of those guys could have gotten their pro card any other day. It was very stacked. And, you know, we were each class. So like last year, you know, our debut class was like 7 stacked. That was like the most. And then, you know, novice and open, I think they were only 5 deep. But this year it was every class was like 7 people deep at least. So it was extremely competitive. So for me, you know, getting third and fourth, looking at it now, I'm like, you know what? That wasn't bad at all. And overall, I mean, you know, I look at the bigger picture, like, sure, I didn't, you know, get first in novice or anything like that, or, you know, get my pro card. But realistically, for only really doing this for like 1 full year, you know, placing no less than top 4 every single time, like, that's pretty good. Like, that's impressive.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So I can't complain. And so like, you know, I gotta like put myself in that, you know, in that frame of mind and just be like, you know what you have to work on, which is, you know, putting more size on. So I know I have a lot of work to do. And I know for a fact I will not place anything higher than top 3 unless I put more size on. So so me personally, like, I hold myself accountable, and I don't even want to like think about getting any type of pro anything until I, you know, put the work in that I have to. So, it's crazy. Your mindset is like such an important thing. And I'll be honest, I kind of wish I had that mindset now that I had, you know, going through prep than I did after the show, because it's really defeating, you know, feeling like that, especially putting all that pressure on yourself. But, you know, at the end of the day, like I said, you got to just control what you can control and, you know, just enjoy the process. You know, it's hell for everybody during prep, but you just gotta do what you can.
Yeah, I think, you know, one thing I was talking to Bobby the day. So I ended up coaching Greg. He did a lot of training on his own. But after I did my show last year, I saw him posting his stuff. I'm like, man, if you just got on stage, like, you would just crush it, you know?
Yeah.
So this year we had opportunity to work with him, get him on stage. And as we were having discussions with Bobby, it was just kind of like one of the greatest, you know, it's one thing to go on stage and just, I learned this last year. Again, I wasn't a physique guy. I wasn't a competitor. It was kind of like, I felt the same way. I was like, oh, like bodybuilders, like, not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just that's not who I am, you know?
Yeah.
But what did attract me to physique was that I like running. So as a runner, like, if you're a balanced athlete, you know, when it comes to, you know, muscle and size and all that, then you can get good strength, good power. It can make you faster, you know, better runner.
Absolutely.
So now I use this like physique time as an opportunity for kind of like my conditioning, strength and conditioning. But yeah, so, you know, it's one thing to like overcome your own personal adversity and get on stage. And then again, I didn't know, my coach last year was like, to get on stage, I mean, less than 1% of the United States population will get on stage, you know, and then
exactly
even less than that. Yeah. Even less than that would be will get some type of trophy, walk away with the trophies. Like the fact that, in your first year, you're able to do that and get some merchandise, like that's a pretty big deal. And then add the added layer of a pandemic, and just being able to, persevere through that. That's kind of the conversation I had with Bobby, where it's like, just for anybody to show up the day of competition alone is a testament to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like anybody who like competed, this year, like definitely you should absolutely keep your head up. Like this is not an ordeal type of situation for anybody. So to even think about putting yourself through any type of 12-week, 16-week prep during this year is like, you should be proud of yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially with like, you're doing it with the hope of competing, but the anticipation that you may not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then navigating the environment of mandates and all this other stuff with whatever state you're competing in. It's a lot. And
no, it is.
Yeah. And then, that weekend of like show weekend is always just stressful. Even as a coach, I think I got like 3 hours of sleep each night for like 2 nights leading up to it,
It sucks. Yeah. It's so bad. Yeah. I only got last year, I only got like 3 hours of sleep because I was like mentally, I'm still awake. Oh, is my tan going to smear off? Do I have to like, fix it? Like there's so much running in your head, especially this year, because you're right with all the mandates, like, control what you control, but at the same time, it's like, are we going to compete? Are they going to like last second say, oh, we got to shut everything down? So like, that's just stress that, is added on.
Yeah. So I think it's kudos to you, man. I think not only the fact that you're able to persevere and get on stage, but again, in the environment, go ahead and place and do better than you did last year. I think it speaks a lot to what you've done and who you are. So I think it's amazing, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think you kind of touched on it. So the concept of the why. So it seems like your why is you just want to be the best classic physique competitor out there. Is that fair? Is it more than that?
Like it's funny because like I actually forgot that we picked that as a topic to talk about, and it's just amazing like how important the why is, and if you don't have one, you're never going to go far in anything. Mm-hmm. You're not even going to have a purpose really. So I want to say I have like multiple whys, but really it's like it comes down to one singular one. But yes, for me personally, like my biggest why is like I want to prove that I am like the absolute best at anything I do, especially in an athletic standpoint, because for me, like being an athlete is really all I know. I spent more time at practice than doing homework and schoolwork when I was at school. So I know I put a lot of work and effort in there. But another big why for me is just self-worth. And I think that, outside of wanting to be the best athlete I can be, I think it all stems down to the bigger picture, personally, is I just want to prove to myself that I'm worth more than what I think I am and what I think that other people think of me. So, that keeps me going. And that's where I think people misunderstand what their why is at times, and they don't take the time to try to dig deeper into why they actually are doing the things that they do every day, or why they want to achieve certain things. So that's really my biggest why for me personally, and that's what just keeps me going. So
no, I think that's good, man. I think that's awesome. I think, when did you decide that's what was going to drive you? Is there a definitive point in life?
Oh, absolutely. So goes back to my whole story, man. It was my last high school football game, second round of the playoffs. I think we were pretty much predicted to win that game pretty, well. We ended up scoring with like 2 minutes left, and it was 27-28, and I had to go out there to tie the game. And I don't know what it was, but that, because as a kicker, you're just taught to like just basically drown out all the noise and stuff. Just focus on your job. It's like golf. Like just focus on the putt. But for some reason, I to this day I don't know. Just the fans of the opposite team, they just got to me. I heard them. I actually, for the first time, doing an extra point of field goal, I actually heard the people. And man, I remember I just kicked that thing and I just looked up and right off the left upright, man. And it was in the local newspaper, like the giant photo. It took about like 75% of the front page of the sports section. Like just me on the ground collapsing because we ended up losing that game because of that. And that was probably the first time in my entire life that I let my team down. And, for me, like, it was the first time I experienced, like, and questioned teammates. Because, football especially, like, they really push the whole family atmosphere.
Yeah.
And we're a team and stuff like that. And, man, all of the hate that I got after that game. My house got egged that night. I had death threats on social media. So on top of hating myself, after that because, that sucked for me. So on top of putting the pressure on myself and hating myself, having everybody else who you thought was your family and, your friends and stuff like that, having that pile on top, that was like the first time I really experienced like depression and stuff. And it sucked, and it still sucks because I still like, that's probably my biggest drive. I still think about that day, and that point in my life. And it, after that, I started eating lunch. So this is like fall semester of my senior year of high school. The rest of my high school like career, I sat at lunch by myself. I didn't talk to really anybody. I didn't even go to my prom. I didn't want to go to graduation, but I did anyway because I'm like, let's just get it over with. And it was at that point I'm like, one day, after working out and stuff and finding that, love for fitness and exercising and stuff because it was my antidepressant. One day I just said, you know what, I want to prove them wrong, prove myself wrong, and go play college football. Because, at the end of the day, it's looking at everybody who I, was on my team. I was one of only 3 people who played college football on that team. And I was the only person out of my graduating class that actually played all 4 years of college football on varsity. So for me, that's check one for, my quote unquote revenge tour, trying to kill people with success, proving my worth to other people. So that was check one for me, was playing college football. Now, having all the success in bodybuilding, getting in shape, losing, like 70 pounds, getting in the best shape of my life, mentally, physically, it's, that's proving the self-worth to me. So that's, check number 2 off. But at the end of the day, I'm always going to remember that day. And there's still always going to be people, new people, still old people that I have to prove wrong, myself included. Like, I will always hold myself accountable because I never want that experience that I had, on that night in high school to ever happen again. Because, man, I'll tell you, that was tough to have to live through that. And even like to bring that into college, and still feel that way was tough, but going through college football and experiencing everything that I did, a biggest thing for me was, I became the first kicker in my college to go 100% on extra points. The first year I was able to do extra points. So for me to redeem myself, that redemption of missing the extra point in high school and to going perfect, the only person in the entire league to go perfect and in school history, that was huge for me. So, and that just keeps me in line. And having to prove myself, the self-worth, my why is what's keeping me going to the next step, the next level, which for me right now is to get that pro card in men's physique. And after that, dominate and just keep going. Because at the end of the day, I'll never really truly view myself, worth anything until I've achieved everything that I want to achieve. Mm-hmm. And the sad part is that I've trapped myself because I'm never going to stop wanting to achieve things because I'm extremely competitive. So I've basically pinned myself to always keep pushing. So I'm always motivated and disciplined to achieve stuff. So it's insane.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. I mean, one of the questions that comes to mind is like, I mean, it's almost like the world was against you. Like, how did you pick yourself up from that worst point of your life and decide I'm going to keep going and I'm going to find a goal and find something to focus on? And like, how do you move on from that?
I don't know, man. It's, I guess it just all comes back to, knowing who you are as a person. Like I said, like, I was captain of like a lot of my travel soccer teams when I was younger. I've won championships. So I knew I had what it took. And you get to a point, I think, in life where when you're really defeated, you really have two options. One of them is to, get pissed and fight back. And the other one is basically to cave in and give up and let those people win. And for me, I kind of twisted it in a way of like looking as a competition. And I just told myself, I'm like, am I going to let these people defeat me mentally? Or am I going to prove to everybody that I am worth something? Like I can keep doing stuff. I can achieve whatever I want to achieve and like, all that stuff. So, for me, like just looking at it, and I hated my life. I really did. Going to school, not talking to anybody, going to lunch, sitting by yourself for 30 minutes, not going to prom, people, harassing you, saying all this stuff. So for me, I couldn't take it anymore. So it got to the point where I'm like, I just got to like tell these people to shut up. And my dad actually taught me, the best revenge on people is success. And I hold that so close to me to this day, and I always will. I'll teach my kids that if anybody ever hurts you, best thing to do is just kill them with success and just be the best person that you can possibly be. And, like I said, I just wanted to be that person. And that's what got me, into personal training, because I wanted to, which goes into like another why, like what drives me is not just self-worth, but, I want to help people never feel the way I did. Mm-hmm. I want them to start feeling confident about, their body and stuff like that, and help them mentally and physically. So not only does it help my self-worth, but it helps their self-worth. And that's the biggest thing that I want to like achieve in my life, is to try to make the world a better place. Because especially today, nowadays, in 2020, there really isn't enough of that. Yeah. So, there's just always something for me to just keep going on and improving on and trying to achieve in life. So
I have a question. I mean, it doesn't really tie into the why, but do you feel like, I'm trying to think of how to word this. Do you feel that setbacks are a necessity to advance, or do you feel like it's something that should just constantly be avoided? What is your take on having a setback?
I think setbacks are so important to your story. They're very rarely, I mean, you have like your undefeated boxers and stuff, like the Floyd Mayweathers, but very rarely do the greatest of all time in whatever sport they are, the champions of all time, very rarely have they ever not suffered a loss. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important that you personally experience some form of defeat or loss or setback, because it's only going to make you stronger how you adapt to it. Your whole life has to basically change itself, adapt to whatever situation you're going through. Nothing worth having in your personal life comes easy. And if it does, probably wasn't worth having in the first place. So, I think now I'm not saying you should like try to look to have a setback. I don't think anybody wants to, right. And nor should you. But when you have those situations come towards your goals, it is so important to like just not give up on it, and to understand that you're not, you're not a master at any of this stuff. Like you're trying to achieve something that you're trying to prove that you should have, that you can attain. It's not supposed to be easy. Like you're not, if you knew how to do it, then what's the point of wasting your time trying to want to do it? So I think having setbacks is almost automatic, honestly, to anything you want to achieve that's so much bigger than what you think it is. So yeah, I honestly did think that setbacks are a must.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah, as you're speaking, I was kind of like reflecting on. It's kind of funny because as I reflect on my own life, I'm like, okay, my greatest setback to me was having Crohn's disease.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, there's things that I grew up with, circumstances or whatever. I never saw it. It was just my life. I didn't see it as a setback. But then society's kind of like, oh yeah, you had a disadvantage in life, you know. But I didn't see it like that. But when I ended up with Crohn's disease in the Marine Corps, everything I had to do now was centered around trying to advance my career while navigating this new condition that I knew nothing about. And eventually it led me to being medically retired, doing these treatments that basically destroyed my body. And again, fast forward from the time that I could barely walk and do these things, I'm now at a point where I could do this, and I want to just take it to the next level, which is doing some type of strength and diet program, food program, to see what my body can absorb, see how I can push myself without straining and causing inflammation and bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like day one, when I paid for the coaching, I got an email that says, "Hey, you have an opportunity to compete in what's called the Invictus Games, which is a wounded, ill, or injured service member competition."
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, "Oh, cool! Like, let me go out and just do a time trial somewhere." And again, so I'm starting my training program. So on day 5, I go and do my intent was, let me do it. So if you're going to do running for the Invictus Games, it's 100, 200, 400. I don't know if the 800 is there, but there's a 15 as well. So I'm like, well, I'll just get my time trials in just to have something. I'm not going to push myself. I just want to see where I am. And then it didn't work out that way. I mean, the competitive side of me kicks in. Next thing I know, I like have a near hamstring pull or tear. I finished the first event, which was 100, but I'm like hopping on one leg on the 100-meter dash. And then, so I actually went through my entire prep. I said, I already put it in my mind that I was going to do this physique program.
Right.
So I think it was my first 65 to 80 days was just me doing upper body stuff and rowing, and not like just rowing without my legs. And I was on crutches for a majority of that time, So then to even finish that and then get on stage was like incredible. And it's just kind of funny. Like, now when things happen, I kind of have this saying of like, what's life without adversity? It's like an opportunity to just kind of, like overcome. And I kind of laughed at it when it happened. I'm like, go figure, like the moment I put my mind to something, this happens. And in the past, I would feel like it was a defeating thing. Now it's like, okay, how do I overcome this? And how do I stick to the definitive purpose and the why in which I'm pursuing, So tying it all back, just the importance of understanding, like, what is it you're working towards, why you're working towards that. I think it's incredible, man. Everything you've been sharing, I think I'm just eating it up. It's been good.
Dude, that's the thing too, though, is that, you hit it on the head with that, is that, a lot of people look at it, what you've gone through is like a setback and stuff like that, and like adversity, and it's only really adversity if you yourself think it is.
Right.
Like for me, when I went through the pancreatitis, like I wasn't like sitting there saying, oh, this sucks, why me, and stuff. I'm like, all right, you know what? I don't really give a damn. Like, it's just, I'm like, there's nothing, me crying about it's not going to like change the fact that I am 10 weeks out from the show. Like, I'm like, yo, let's just go for it. We have work to do. I don't really think about that. And I think that mentality, is the difference between being a champion and not being a champion. And it's just looking at adversity and saying, oh, it's just an extra roadblock, and not something that, oh, how am I going to like accomplish anything at this point? This sucks. Woe is me type of mentality. So you definitely nailed it on that one.
Yeah, no, I think, and you shared in your story, I think it's amazing. So I think, kind of for the audience, so you went from high school, you dealt with, you mentioned depression and stuff like that. You got into college, you had was seemingly an excellent career in being a kicker. then you moved on to physique competitions. And then from my understanding, was a Muscle Fitness magazine. You got to tell your story on there. And
Dude, that was insane.
How'd that come about?
So the editor, Jeff Tomko, he's been following me since 2014. So, I get this notification, this guy follows me, whatever, didn't really know much of him. I'm like, cool. He's like the main editor of Muscle and Fitness. So I wasn't into Muscle and Fitness magazine until like early 2015. So, I'm like, cool, whatever. And at that time I didn't know he actually graduated from the same college I went to. So now to me, it's like, oh, that makes sense why you follow me. Yeah. So I remember it was after that show, and it was actually probably this time last year. I remember I was sitting in my office at work, and I get this DM from him, and he was like, hey, what's your contact? I have a question for you. And at the time I was like, it can't be that. Like, no freaking way. I'm like, why would he want to like ask me a question? And I remember, and I'll never forget this moment. And he ended up asking me, he was like, hey man, I've been following your entire story about your weight loss and all this, the depression and stuff. He's like, I want to like tell your story in Muscle and Fitness.
Wow.
And the moment I read that, I like started bawling out crying at work. I had to actually walk out of the building. Like, cause dude, like, so, getting in the fitness industry, I'm like, yeah, I want to be like a fitness model. I want to be a pro men's physique bodybuilder. I want to like maybe open up my own gym. I want to be in all these magazines. But, for me, I'm like, oh, none of that's going to happen until I get my pro card. Like, I am not going to achieve anything until like everybody knows who you are. And so for me to like get that so early, like I'm not like, I just debuted in men's physique. So for me to have that happen, dude, I was like on cloud nine. I still am on cloud nine about it, especially because Muscle and Fitness magazine, like they're only digital now. So I was in the second to last actually published magazine, period. Wow. I was in the last page, like the whole last page. So he was like, yeah, man, make sure you buy all the copies because this is like the second to last magazine ever until we go completely digital. So yeah, like he just asked me, and then he hit me up with Michael Berg, who's one of the writers, and we just talked, via email, and he just, wanted to know my story, and we just got it published. He said, yeah, I think it's going to inspire a lot of people. And for me, that was such a huge step in the direction of my why, self-worth in myself, but also trying to help others find self-worth in themselves by sharing my story on this huge publication. Like, this is Muscle and Fitness. This is like one of the top like big 3 fitness magazines in the entire world. So for me to have already achieved something on my bucket list that, I'm going to be honest, I thought it would be like a blind shot, in the dark to get, because I'm like, man, you got to be like a celebrity to get on that stuff. Right. So for me to even be confident, barely into my first year of bodybuilding, it was extremely humbling, honestly. And it just put me in a perspective of, man, I can achieve so much in this sport. And I already have, like, in just 1 year, I've done so much more than I had in any other sport. So right now I'm proving to myself, that I was right so far, that, I know how good I am and how good I can be. But at the end of the day, I just got to keep going, because this isn't where I want to end anything at. So yeah, man, that was such a insane moment, to have that experience. It's such a young time in my career, and it was completely insane.
Yeah, no, I think we connected on Instagram, and I feel like you posted on there, and I was trying to find a copy. I didn't follow through, and hopefully I can maybe find one, get your signature or something before it's too late.
I have like 5 of them, man. Next time I see you, hell yeah, man. I literally, because he told me, especially because of the pandemic and stuff, dude, they like just shut all this like shipping and stuff like that. So, dude, I honestly, it was like in August, my magazine was still in Barnes and Nobles, and I was like, yo, like I bought like 3 more of them. I'm like, yeah, because I'm like, I'll hold on to them if anybody wants them. So yeah, man, I'll hook you up.
I'll take a signature and magazine.
I got you. Absolutely.
I'll send you my address after this call.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, please do. I'll definitely mail that to you, man. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I think this is a good place to stop. I mean, is there anything else you want to talk to? Any last minute things you'd like to say before we kind of close out here? And then what I'll do is kind of let you have the floor right now, and then we'll go into just kind of how people can contact you and stuff like that, and go from there. But
yeah, sure.
Any last minute things?
Yeah, I think, if anybody's listening to this, if you take anything out of this, is to, make sure you take the time to understand your purpose in life, and whatever goals you have, never think that they're too big. No matter if your friends, family tell you otherwise, people that hate you tell you otherwise, never think that anything that you want to achieve in life is ever too big. And more importantly than that, just never give up on it. Just keep going, like, no matter what.
Yeah, well, that's powerful. I don't mean to steal your thunder, but a couple of weeks ago I wrote something out. It was kind of like I shared with the man a great idea that I had, and he talked it down as if it was the worst idea ever. And then me and him both died in the same grave, basically, of never accomplishing anything, And then
Right.
I took the same idea. I brought it to, I fostered it. I didn't share it with anybody until I knew it was real. And then I began to present it to other people. People had their doubts. And then here I was becoming an individual in which people would, I had a resource in which other people could pull from. And even though they doubted me, I was able to, provide resources that ended up paying me dividends. It was something a lot more thought-provoking behind that. But the basic idea is like understanding your dreams and understanding that your dreams and ideas are not always somebody else's. And those who you cast them to is very important, because if they're on the wrong ears and they feed you the wrong information, it can just crush your dream. So
absolutely, you said it better than I did.
Yeah, no, I just you're filling me up, man. I appreciate it. It's good stuff. So
Nah, dude, you're absolutely right, dude. I'll be honest, like, like the whole, like, I don't have like anybody, honestly, like in my close circle that really understand what I'm trying to do. Like, not even my family, like, they're like, oh, bodybuilding, that's weird. Like, not that they don't support it, but it's just like, it's very, abnormal to them. So, like, but that doesn't stop me, not at all. It's not really what I want to achieve from it, but it's the meaning behind it, what I'm able to achieve outside of when I eventually do achieve it. So, and that's you said it perfectly. Like, it doesn't matter who the other person is. Sometimes it falls on the wrong ears, and you just have to, as long as you keep telling yourself and you keep believing, you literally can achieve anything. It just depends on how much effort are you really willing to do and put in. So you said it best, man.
Yeah, no, good stuff. So, you mentioned Muscle Fitness Magazine found you online. I know you mentioned in some of our discussions, you do training, nutrition. So let's talk about that. Where can people find you? What resources are out there?
So outside of just doing actual, like, in-person personal training, I do online personal training and, nutrition stuff. So, you can find me on my website. It's mikhailkfitness.com. You can go there. Instagram, it's my full name, at Mikhail Kniaziewicz. Also check out my YouTube channel. That's just my first and last name, Mikhail Kniaziewicz. So you can check me out there as well. Or, just go to my website. All the links are there already for you. So definitely just go ahead and check it out and see what I'm all about, really. Follow my life.
Nice. And then Evogen Nutrition, is that correct?
Yeah, Evogen Nutrition, that's my affiliate supplement company. All that's on my website as well. Or you can go to the link on my Instagram page. So go check them out as well if you're looking for really good supplements to use, or try something different even.
Yeah, and I also know you got some MKFT apparel also, right?
Yeah, so same thing. It's all on my website,
awesome.
mikhailkfitness.com. Yeah, go ahead and check out my personal merch and stuff like that. So,
all right, Mikhail, well, I appreciate your time, man. I'm glad we could make this happen. I know last season we probably took
it's hectic, man. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, so I'm glad we can make it work, and obviously we're connected on Instagram, so I'm gonna keep keeping in touch. And again, anybody that wants to kind of learn what it means to prep for physique competitions, anyone wants some type of coaching and nutrition guidance, or just follow a great story, a great person, go ahead and check out Mikhail Kniaziewicz on Instagram, YouTube, and his website. And I'll post a lot of that stuff after this session here. But I appreciate your time, appreciate the inspiration, the wealth of knowledge, and everything else. And we'll talk soon.
Appreciate it, brother. Absolutely.